Everybody, welcome back to Sharon Cullen Art. The other day I had painted a painting and did an entire tutorial for you, and my head was in the way the entire time. All you could see was my hair. You couldn't see anything else. It was crazy. So today I am going to do a different painting, and this time I have made sure that my hair is not in the way. It is a gouache painting, and it's loosely based on a photo that I saw in Pixabay, just very loosely based. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with that, and I will let you know the colors I'm using. So if you want to paint along, you can. I'm not going to do the full painting because it's over an hour long. I think it took me about an hour to do. So I will try to leave as much of it in as possible so that if you do want to follow along, you can. And you can always pause it and catch up with me and then restart it again, because some of it is very tedious. So you really don't need 10 minutes of me smoothing out a background or whatever. Get your gouache and let's get started. Okay, so I tried to do this painting here for you yesterday, and my head was in the entire painting. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do a landscape, and I'm going to do it in gouache, so we'll just see how it goes. You guys can follow along. I've got some of my gouache paints right here. I've reconstituted them. They were hard as a rock for several months, I'm sure. And then I also have some other paints right here that I'll probably be using on this palette because I go through certain colors very quickly. I'm using a photo here that will look nothing like this when we're done. It is from Pixabay. It was a big photo, and I cropped it down to this, and just for the idea, and it's going to look nothing like that when we finish. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom you in, and we will go ahead and get started. Yesterday it was 72 degrees here. Today it is going down into the teens. It's been steadily dropping all day. The wind is blowing so hard, and it's about 22 degrees right now. What a difference. I'm going to grab some Prussian blue. You can use phthalo blue and then use a little bit of black as well. Oh, shoot. To get your Prussian blue. That's basically what they are mixed together. I'll be using white, of course. I'll be using some permanent green. Maybe a little phthalo green and some yellow. Some primary yellow. Oh, I'm almost out, though. I go through the gouache so fast. Let's see here. I've got this thing here with all of my gouaches in it. And I just dropped another yellow. This is cad yellow. That's a little too dark for what I want. I use a lot of Linden green. I might grab some of that, but it's not required. And this, I don't even know who made this. Shinhan. I didn't know I had Shinhan. That is a warm yellow also. I'm looking for a cool yellow like this. This one's much cooler, but it's almost empty. I think I have one that I was emptying here. Yes, this is Hansa Yellow. So I'll use those up and see how far they go. Oh, here's another one. Good. Well, that's Hansa Yellow medium. I want Hansa Yellow light. And I don't know if my head was just in the picture again. I'm sorry if it was. That's what stopped me the other day. So let's go ahead. I'm going to just go ahead and use as few colors as possible. Prussian blue. Put it on my palette here. Oop. And I'm using different brands. This one is M. Graham. I like M. Graham gouache a lot. I order their large tubes. I'm going to put my white over here. permanent green, I need some more in here. So I'm just going to add it to that, I think, instead of to my... Oops! Darn it. This is how I get my fingers all dirty while I'm painting, is opening and closing these tubes. They never have good caps. There's somebody that does. I forget who it is. Maybe it's Holbein. It has really good caps. I'm going to use a little bit of this cobalt turquoise light because I love this color. Don't know how much I'll use, but I need my yellow. Might be able to just use the yellow out of my palette as well. I think we'll do that. See how I go. Now I'll use a little yellow here, I think. My brushes that I use are by King Art. They're original gold, and you can buy them in sets or whatever. I've got a 2-round, a 4-round. Here's my 6. Okay, so these are the brushes that I will use throughout, and we'll go ahead and get started. Now I'm starting with my Prussian blue, and like I said earlier, if you don't have Prussian blue, you can use Phthalo blue and mix just a little bit of black into it and make it dark, and it'll be the same thing basically. Now I'm just taking some color and putting it on. Don't worry about coverage or any of that. You could see I have a little bit of white showing through. That eventually is going to disappear once we start blending colors together. And my brush is a little bit dirty, and I just grabbed some white to lighten up the color near the top. Basically what we're going to do is have it lighter up in the top right, darker at the bottom, and gradually it'll blend together. There'll be some changes as we go on. I'm going to add a little more white to this because I don't like how blue it is. Now I'm adding a little bit of green in with the white that was on my brush, as well as some Prussian blue, and just adding it in on the left. I want to keep the colors fairly light near the top. Later we'll be adding leaves on the trees, and if you have it too dark, then you're not going to be able to see any of the leaves. So that's the purpose there of making it lighter. Plus I want light coming through the background so that it looks like the sun is shining on the path. And I'll add a little bit of primary yellow or your cool yellow into the mix to lighten it up even more. You'll see as I go that I wipe my brush off a lot. I will wipe off excess water and add more color, and I'll keep doing that on my paper towel as I go along. Now I'm going in and adding that white again that I wanted, and I'll just sort of blend it all in. I don't want to lose the darkness at the bottom though, so I will stop and then I'll start blending up from the bottom. I also need to put the path in that's going to be at the center, so that's why I haven't painted that area yet. I've decided that I want to keep that area that I'm painting there real dark, so I'm adding more of the Prussian blue in to keep that area dark. And the reason for that is that later we'll be adding plants that will be lighter in color, and they will have some sunlight shining on them. So if I have darkness in the background, it'll really make those plants pop in the foreground. I suggest keeping a paper towel or a rag or something next to you so that you can be wiping off the brush. Even if you're not wetting it first, it's good just to get the excess paint off the brush for your blending. And I decided to go ahead with a little bit of yellow ochre. I wasn't going to use that, but I decided to use it on the path, and I'll be adding a little bit of white to it once I get the ochre down. And don't worry if it mixes in a little bit with that Prussian blue, that's fine. It just kind of grays it down a little bit, and then I add the white to it, and it'll all blend out eventually. Right now we're just putting background color down, and then with a very slightly damp brush, then I will start going ahead and blending things out. At first I thought maybe using a dry brush, a big brush, would be enough to blend it out, but I didn't like the way it was blending, so I'm going to stop that, and then I'm going to go back to my smaller brush, my flat brush. I've added a little bit more white to the brush just to lighten that background up a little more and make it look a little bit brighter. Once I get it all blended out, then I will go ahead and we will start the foreground. But before starting the foreground, you want to make sure that your background is fully dried. I was going to add in some background trees and foreground trees, but then stopped. I want to put in some background brush or bushes. So right now I'm just adding a little bit of phthalo blue into the mix with a little bit of green. And I want it to stay on the lighter side. So if you have to add a little bit of white to your mix, you can do that. We want this to push back into the background. And I'm sorry about the head. I had to cut out quite a bit because of my head being in the way. Again, I am so sorry, you guys. I have to get back into recording mode. Now I'm going to go ahead, now that I've got those bushes in either side, I'm going to go ahead and lighten the background up even more. I want to add a little more white to the top center of the painting. I'm just dabbing it in, and then I'm going to just blend it out. And it doesn't have to be pretty. I'm adding a little bit of water just to blend it out a little bit more. And this will just represent the light coming down from the background. Now make sure your background is dry before starting the trees. I went ahead and mixed a gray, and I'm using that. I want it to be on the darker side. And the trees in that picture were kind of bendy, but they all curved over the path, almost like a tunnel. So that's what we're going to create with this. And for those of you painting along, quite often you see me doing things in hyperlapse or fast. I've sped up the video. Now you can see exactly how slow I do paint when I'm doing these things. I paint very slowly and just take my time with it. The entire painting took me a little bit over an hour, maybe an hour and 5 minutes from beginning to end. And I had to cut some areas out, like when I'm off screen for a long period of time mixing color, or my arm is over the painting and I'm adjusting something on my screen so that I can see the photo better. So I've cut those things out so that you don't have to sit and wait for me to come back and start painting again. Now we're going to be doing some distant trees, and those will be lighter. I want them to blend into the background, so they're a lighter gray so that it pushes them back into the distance. If you're painting along with me and you're having trouble keeping up, just pause the video and get caught up, and then you can follow me again. And if you do paint this painting, I would love to see your results. You can tag me on Instagram at Sharon Cullen Art. And if you tag me, then I will be able to see your photos. I would love to see your paintings. And now I'm just adding a little bit of light on the edges of the trees. And on the back side, I'm going to make them a little bit darker as well. Here I'm slightly off the top of the frame just by like a ½ inch, but I'm adding some dark green leaves, just dabbing leaves. They don't need any detail, just dab, dab, dab. And I'm using phthalo green to go ahead and add those in. I'm making them a little bit bluer off on the right-hand side and greener over on the left-hand side. When you're dabbing the leaves on, make sure you don't dab so much that you've obstructed the background, because we still want that light to shine through. So I'm not putting so many leaves on. Now the light gray highlights did darken, so I'm going back with just white to add more highlights to the trees where the light would be hitting them. Now just grab a little bit of permanent green, and we're going to start adding bushes that are midground, and we're going to brighten those colors up. Darn, I am so sorry about my head getting into the frame. I need to move my camera on my next video. I really didn't want to throw away a whole entire tutorial again like I did on the other one. As we come forward from background to midground and from midground to foreground, we will add more detail with each consecutive step. Now I'm taking primary green and I'm beginning to add some of the foreground plants that will become larger and more apparent in the scene. I'm just using different strokes and making unfurling ferns, making open ferns, and all sorts of different leafy plants. Right now it looks like I am using my number 6 round for these plants. A lot of times I will use my number 4 round, and then if I need real fine detail, I will go ahead and use a liner or 2 brush. Now I'm just adding some unfurling ferns, and then I'll go ahead and add some grasses. I'm gradually brightening the colors of the greens as I come forward as well, or lightening the value. I've also decided to add a little bit of light between those distant trees way in the back. So I'm going back in with some white in order to lighten that up, and then I'll just blend it out. And I'm just softening out the color with a number 2 round. And once you've finished that, then I'm going to go ahead and add some lighter green leaves to the trees as they come forward. And on the ground cover that I've already painted, I'm going to put highlights on some of the leaves. Make sure when you're lightening these leaves that you don't lighten each leaf of the plant. We want to only lighten the ones that would be hitting the light, and you don't even need to highlight the entire leaf. It might just be part of a leaf. Now we'll probably go back and add more to the midground, but I'm getting up toward the foreground now and deciding what I'm going to add here. Now I've just added some mossy area, and I'm going to go ahead and add some other plants in now. You want to give a variety of plants. Don't have them all looking like the same plant throughout, although in some forests that's what you get. You may get a ground cover of flowers, or you may have a ground cover of just ferns, but I am mixing it up here. Now the size of the brush and the way you press down to make the leaves and then let off pressure to have them come to a point will look different on the different size brushes. And then I'm just using the tip to add some little bits of grasses coming out from that mossy area. And if you have no idea how to make plants like this and want to learn, just leave a comment down below. If you need a video to show you how to do these things, I'd be glad to show you. If this video is not showing you enough and you want to just work on plants, just let me know. I've decided I didn't like the green of those plants, so I'm going back and I'm redoing the entire thing with a lighter green. This one I'm keeping a little bit darker and then just adding highlights, but this one on the right I wanted to make lighter so it shows up better, because that phthalo blue or Prussian blue and that green were very similar in value, and it was harder to see it, so that's why I lightened it up. Now I'm adding low ground cover, which almost appears like a hosta when it's finished. The leaves are kind of stacked on each other, and I'm just putting them in that spot. Sorry for my head again. I gotta stop that. I apologize, you guys. I have another video that's finished that I need to edit and get out to you. I was going to have these out weeks ago, but ended up in the hospital with sepsis. So I'll tell you the whole story in another video, but I'm I hope my head isn't in that next one. Now I'm just touching up the leaves on the trees a little bit, filling certain areas in. And that's pretty much it. Let me just remove the tape and we'll see the final painting. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, be courageous, paint with wild abandon, and most of all, be kind to each other. Take care, God bless you, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.